Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 9.48, the one that announces the end. We are back.
Hey guys, I didn't want to have to make this video.
You announcing the end?
But, Giovanni Sigma Testament, I have to apologize for his actions. No, I don't know where I was going with that bit. Anyway, speaking of the end, should we say what this is?
This is the final chapter of Arc 9.
And will you be back with Arc 10 next week?
Should be, hopefully, unless I die.
Bloody hell, guys.
Unless I
You
get hit
hear
by a
that?
fucking van.
Arc 9 is over. How did you all feel about it?
It's not over
Let
yet,
us know
we've
in the
not read the
comments
chapter yet.
after we finish reading this chapter. Anyways, go ahead and read us the beginning. It should be pretty easy for you.
Found him.
Question marks? 3 weeks later. And there it is, Skipper declared, pointing his metal finger up at the hologram. Elysian Fields! Pretty nifty, huh? Dragon took in the floating facsimile of the planet before him. They'd been hiding out aboard the Eliza ever since the battle on the Deus Nobiscum, recovering from their injuries and fatigue, but Skipper had clearly been itching to move again. It seemed today he'd hit his limit. He'd pushed the crew into this Paradisus briefing room and begun this little presentation without much preamble at all. Elysian Fields, huh? The planet wasn't too much of a spectacle to look at. From the readings being displayed alongside it, it was mostly covered with grassland and forests, with mountain ranges separating more flat plains. Apparently there were Gene Tyrant ruins somewhere on the planet, but they weren't quite visible from space. In short, he was looking at a big ball of green. Oh my god, Hamilton will love this chapter. Ruth leaned over the table, angling her head this way and that to get a better look at the planet. This is where we're headed. This is where we're headed, then? Doesn't look like much. Skipper grinned. It's where we take out the Supreme, yeah? Don't worry about how it looks. It's got something real special waiting for us. Bruno was looking at a copy of the information on his script, scrolling up and down the planet's environmental conditions. He glanced up at Skipper and spoke. You mean the weapon, right? Dragon swallowed. Skipper's smile widened. Not a weapon. Nah. It's, more of a device, I'd say. Something that will force the Supremacy to engage us on our terms. Strip away their strengths, open up their weaknesses, give us the best conditions possible, yeah? What kind of device? Dragon spoke up. His arms were crossed, his face pale. Even as he spoke, you could feel his heart hammering in his chest, shaking the words that came out of his mouth. It was only natural. The day that had seemed perpetually in the future was now imminent. Choices had to be made. He'd decided a long while ago that, when the time came, he'd make a run for it if he didn't think there was a chance of victory. So, did he think that? Skipper clicked his tongue. This whole ship is basically one big listening device, kid, so I can't go into specific... Oh my fucking god. I'm gonna kill you, Tan. Straight up going to strangle you through the screen. Do you hear me? Do you hear me right now, Tanhoney? I know you're there at the other end.
I can hear you.
Tanhoney, listen to my voice. Enough with the hiding. Give me what I want. I'm squeezing your throat like fucking Giovanni Sigma Testament, but I'm not healing your wounds. I'm not healing you.
There's no way.
You never can you? Dragon rolled his eyes. But, Skipper continued, there's a few tidbits that I don't mind liking. For one, this is a Jade Tyrant device. The tyrant that owned this planet was assassinated before he could make it to his little fortress here, so it's gone untouched since the revolutions. Dragon put a hand to his chin as he circled the hologram, its green light washing over the room. You mean a literal 1,000 years, Tan? It's been 1,000 years since the 10... Yeah, so it'll be like nothing? Have you seen buildings that are 1,000 years old today?
This guy
It will be gone, Tanhoney! What'd you say?
This guy thinking about buildings.
This device won't even fucking work when they get there, I swear to God. Dragon put a hand to his chin as he circled the hologram, its green light washing over the room. Gene Tyrant, he mused. So, I'm guessing this device isn't some kind of normal machine, then? It's something they made, grew? You got it, Skipper nodded. Like I said, no specifics until we get there. But, it's a weird one. It winds underneath the surface of the whole planet. Bruno's analytical frown opened up into Serena's sudden horror, her mouth a perfect O. But Mr. Skipper, she explained, if we're here, what's stopping someone from going there and messing with it? If the notion disturbed Skipper, he didn't show it. He just snapped his prosthetic fingers, dispelling the hologram before grinning. "Don't you worry, Serena," he said. "We've got allies looking after Elysian Fields for us. There's no risk of anyone beating us there." So is Elysian Fields the planet, the location? Where is it?
It's in the Supremacy.
Oh my god, we forgot to do a fun fact last episode.
There's no more time for fun facts. This is a serious hour.
I'll make you do two
Okay.
after the end of this one. Allies? Dragon raised an eyebrow. Who? Old friends, Skipper waved a dismissive hand. Don't you worry either. These are people I trust 100%. They hate the Supremacy more than anyone. And that makes them trustworthy? Bruno asked. Skipper's smile dropped. Sure does, pal. They're good folks. You like them. As quickly as it had vanished, though, the grin returned. So, let's get back in, yeah? It's a long way to Supremacy Space. As the lights flicked back on, bathing the room in white, Dragon just stood there. As the room filed out, heading off to make their preparations, Dragon just stood there. As the doors slid back shut, Dragon just stood there, thinking about the decision to be made. Ooh, is this a new character?
It's a new character.
Okay. Marcus woke with a start, nearly falling out of his seat from the neural feedback. Immediately, his vision flicked into full clarity, down to the background radiation hanging in the air. His conscious mind joined his subconscious, linking into the network of security cameras that kept watch over this minor hangar. His two eyes became nearly 100, his thoughts partitioning to handle the increased input. So wait, why would he give away the location of this place when there's people listening, but not the details of the machine? You fool, Skipper. Most of the staff aboard
the Paradises already know, because they shipped all the stuff he got from them there.
Most of the staff aboard the Eliza occupied... Wait a minute, Marcus is one of the guys in my story. How dare you?
It's a historical name. He was named after that guy.
Fuck you! Now I can't continue. Alright, this is now the new reason I can't continue my fanfiction instead of my own laziness.
Someone else in the world was named Marcus.
Yeah, you can't have two characters with the same name. That's like storytelling 101. It's confusing. But most of the staff aboard the Eliza occupied automatic bodies, but legally they had to employ some organic staff, and so Marcus found himself guarding this low-security, low-priority hangar for miscellaneous cargo. He was wired up to the gills, sure, but his brain was still mostly made of meat. Fucking cyberpunk over here. Usually his 12-hour shift, nightmare, mainly consisted of lying back and keeping himself on sleep mode, but every now and then he'd get some stray rodents tripping off the sensors. Marcus got out of his seat, reaching underneath his desk and retrieving the plasma rifle stored there. As he unlocked the door out of the security booth, he ran a quick search for the specific source of the disturbance. The response to that gave him pause. This time it wasn't a rodent. It was a human figure, walking calmly through the middle of the vacant hangar, their features concealed by the black cloak that hung off their frame. More bizarrely, where had they come from? There were no ships docked in the hangar, and they were heading in the direction of the entrance. Before taking this assignment, Marcus had been part of civilian security. He'd seen his share of danger, and the instincts you got from those situations didn't just disappear. He could feel them shouting at him now, adding caution to his step, and anxious hollowness to his breath. He hesitated. Oh man, so he's feeling something nearby. I kind of zoned out for a second.
Well, through the security cameras, you can see there's a black cloaked figure walking through the hangar, and he got bad vibes basically.
Oh shit! All right, I'm back in focus mode. Okay. Boom. Before heading out, Marcus consulted the secondary sensors for more information on the figure. Body temperature normal, heartbeat highly accelerated, but somehow muffled. Oh no, like a heartbeat shotgun. Like they were wearing some kind of body armor, interfering with the scan. Tertiary sensors ran a check for weapons, but found no plasma signature in the hangar, save for the one coming from Marcus's own weapon. Oh, he's using punch point, Tan? No, not all you have to worry about are bladed weapons. We've established there's punch point weapons still, right?
Oh yeah.
So all he had to worry about were bladed weapons and Aether. His endoskeletal enhancements would deal with the former, but the latter... He'd taken this assignment to get away from the battlefield, because he'd seen the horrors Aether users were capable of inflicting. Even so, he couldn't allow the fear of there maybe being an Aether user stop him from doing his job. We need to come up with a better word for people who use Aether than Aether users. We gotta think of some cool word.
Aetherhead.
Yeah. It is kind of hard to think of a cool name for it with Aether. We'll have to think of it. Maybe something to do with light of the mind, like people, a light, lit. I don't know. This might be too late in the game to come up with that.
It's we just never said it before.
If it came down to it, after all, he was the one with the gun. He waited until the intruder had stepped past the security booth before exiting, slamming the door open and pointing his readied rifle at their back. Safety off, plasma loaded, just the slightest increase of pressure on his finger to end a life. Is he the one talking here?
Yeah.
Hands above your head! The regulators in his throat kept his voice... Oh, sorry. Hands above your head, he said. The regulators in his throat kept his voice steady, suppressing the tremor there to near nothing. Slowly the figure complied, the black fabric billowing around them as they raised their hands up and placed them atop their head. Got anything on you? Marcus demanded. Anything that's going to poke me, cut me. Still facing away from him, the figure shook their head. Okay now, Marcus continued. I'm going to remove your cloak and conduct a search. I'd advise you not to make any sudden movements. You understand? This time, a silent nod. Marcus circled his prisoner cautiously, rifle still pointed at them, fingers still curled around the trigger. As soon as he was facing them directly, he reached out carefully and pulled the hood over their head free. It took him half a second to register the face under the hood. It took another half a second for the facial recognition database to find a match. It took him just a fraction of a second to realize the threat, and even less than that to pull the trigger. Unfortunately, it took the intruder only 0.01 seconds to murder Marcus. Oh my god! The more you unintentionally get like Record of Ragnarok, the more insane it gets that you haven't read it. His head popped like a balloon, fragments of brain and bone raining down around the surrounding area. His neural implants dropped to the floor like a drained jellyfish, sparks still leaping from their abandoned tendrils. The plasma rifle slipped from his dead fingers, clattering to the floor. The figure had already pulled their hood back up and continued walking by the time Marcus's body hit the ground. So did he basically just do the fucking the boy's head explode?
That's what you should picture, though, yeah.
Oh! Oh no! What kind of ability is that? Did he even touch him?
He did not, no, he just stood there.
How? Damn, the power scaling on Aether has gotten crazy. What the fuck? A moment alone, if you please, murmured the chorister. The nurse acquiesced, bowing deeply before scurrying out of the bedchambers. Is it a fucking spider? All in all, it was something of a miracle that Isabel Pye Testament had escaped physically intact from the chaos of the fighting aboard the Deus Nobiscum. She'd been even more fortunate in that she'd fallen into his hands, rather than one of the old Apex Bishop's supporters. Some of those rats were still scurrying around. The chorister... I'm not going back to read the line you're adding.
You don't need to.
The chorister went to sit down on... The chorister went to sit down on empty air, and an automatic chair scurried to accommodate him. This place was like a palace, with decor and facilities that even the richest would be jealous of. And yet Isabel was fundamentally incapable of appreciating it. Her eyes were open, her breathing was steady, and yet there was simply no mind present to drive her forward. More than anything, she was like a living doll. The doctors were hopeful that her mind would eventually reconstruct itself, or that a new consciousness would develop to fill the void. But was that really the best outcome? It had only been 2 weeks since the chorister had been named interim Apex Bishop, and that was an interim he fully intended to make indefinite. As the last known survivor of the Testament Project, she was a figure that his enemies could rally behind, could prop up as his opposition. If she ever woke up, she could be a dangerous weapon against him. The smart thing to do, the practical thing to do, would be to kill her right now. Aether danced through the chorister's finger as he considered his course of action. The best way to do this would be to have Melly expose a weak point in her lungs or heart so as to cause a seemingly natural death. It wouldn't be the first time the chorister had used such a tactic. For those of you who don't remember, Melly's like his little pixie that
fairy flies into stuff
points.
and exposes the weak points.
Yeah. And yet, when he considered doing it now, he couldn't help but feel a distinct distaste. It was thanks to this woman that Giovanni's madness had been exposed to the public, and it was thanks to that the chorister had become Apex Bishop. Would he really repay that assistance, if unintended, with the betrayal of one who could not comprehend it? Oh my god. Just marry her, dude. Shaking my head.
She's in a coma.
When she wakes up, Once he had left the church and the quiet choir both, seeking out what fulfillment the outside world could give him. He'd come back dissatisfied. This world of ruthlessness and wickedness and hungry knives had been all he'd known since then. For a long time, that had been all he'd been as well. He'd thought he had no other choice if he wished to thrive. Perhaps, just this once, he would be impractical. He let out a heavy sigh, and the aether in his hands died away. Well, he thought wearily, so begins another long vigil. Oh, is this another new person?
Yeah.
What? Roristelia, is that how you pronounce it? Roestellio paused his flight down the hallway, a rare moment of confusion spoiling his tranquility. He had been occupying the spherical automatic body during a logistics meeting with some organic practitioners, but something was stopping him from cutting the connection. Something blocking the upload to the garden completely. Was there some kind of malfunction going on? Roestellio went to send a message to the central network to query what was going on. Oh, this guy looked up computer terms. But his consciousness winked out before he could. He'd never know it, but at that moment his metal body was torn cleanly in two by a sharp blade of invisible force. Repulsors deactivated, the two halves of his body thudded to the ground, internal fluids spilling out the gaps. The cloaked figure Roestellio has never seen calmly walked past his carcass, the gate unbreaking. I thought Roestellio was going to be like a fancy man, so I went in all in.
His one line in the story is, what?
Yeah. Well, it's like his tranquility. I don't know. It also sounded like a noble-y name.
Yeah, they all have weird names once they get uploaded.
It's true. Yeah, why don't any of them have fucking usernames in the gardens? Why is no one like fucking Sex Giraffe 87 or something?
Not dignified, man.
You have to reserve your username in this system. The silver stater danced between his fingers and rolled... Is it stater or stator?
Stator.
The silver stater danced between his fingers and rolled over his knuckles before trickling up onto the top of his thumb and spinning in place. He left it there for 5 seconds or so before flicking it up into the air. Then he caught it before it struck the ground. Coin tricks really were amusing. Zeroth had taken a liking to them. Wait, who's Zeroth again?
Zeroth was the guy Gertrude created out of lots of guys.
Oh, yeah!
He became super smart as it fought Bruno and then decided fighting was dumb and left.
Beautiful.
He reached enlightenment
in like
10 minutes.
He's so strong. He fights Bruno for 10 minutes, reaches enlightenment.
He went from, dog, gonna kill you, to this is no point. This is a pointless conflict. I will abscond.
My IQ is 384. I'm going to Mensa now.
I thought it was 8, but the 8 seems to have fallen over.
That's the stupidest fucking line. I wish you had written that in. I wish you leaned all into the over-the-top tuniness of this sometimes. That'd be so good. He was aboard the menagerie in the central complex, sitting in a waiting room. The furniture was eclectic yet comfortable, different styles and materials making up the selection of chairs and tables. On the wall opposite him hung countless paintings, from historical depictions to abstract pieces. Zeroth's gaze was focused on a print of Death's Elegy, an epic reproduction of the fall of the Arcana automatics. No! No! My boys! Where had they gotten this, he wondered. Something donated by a new convertee, or had it passed through the hands of thieves before reaching this place? So wait, is he on like the Paradisa ship now?
He's on the Humulus ship right now.
Okay. A whole society made from the refuse of the past. A fascinating notion, but Zeroth had to wonder how practical it really was. All the same, he'd do his best to keep it going into the future. Continuity was important when it came to an organization like this. It charted the way. After all, he too was something... Oh my god. After all, he too was something recycled. The doors slid open, and Alejandro walked in, a script clutched to his chest. He was slight of frame, his long dark hair tied behind his back, but in his red eyes was the passion of a true believer. The young man had become something like Zeroth's assistant during his time on the streets of the menagerie. Did he go from, like, dumb, like, Frankenstein to, like, the leader of the Humanists? He's like, Apex Bishop, a title that suits me most well. And so it was only natural that he would accompany him there. Is this Alejandro talking? Yeah. Grand Inspector Murphy just got here, Mr. Patch, he said hurriedly. They're all waiting for you. I totally forgot Zeroth's voice. Thank God he didn't talk. Yeah, he's got Since he'd escaped this complex the first time, Zeroth had spent his time debating others on the city street. Oh my god, he's become so annoying. It had been intended as a means of honing his mind, but somewhere along the line his dialogues had turned into preaching. That preaching had gathered a following, and that following had brought him back here. It seemed that the more prominent members of the humanist faith were keen on meeting this popular new preacher, now that their old leader was dead. Zeroth rose from the chair, towering over his assistant, and strode towards the doors. If they wished for him to speak, then he would speak. He would speak until his throat ran dry, and why regretted giving him a tongue. He spared only a final glance at the paintings behind him. That's, like, funny to me, because that's like if, like, the local priest at your church passed away, and you're like, well, I guess I better give some of these other religions a try.
It's all the same religion.
Yeah, it's all the same, really. A collection of traditions and values bound by mutual hope, carried in the minds of those wishing for answers. Yes, that was the shape a faith should take. Popcorn.
The control room dripped with blood. Andre heard it before anything else. He looked up to see what the source of the sound was, and his head exploded. Roy ran for the weapons locker.
Wait, Roy?
Hmm?
Roy?
There's a different Roy. Sorry, I'll change it. Rory ran for the weapons locker.
Rory. There was also a Rory, I think.
This is a different one. Panic pushing his body further than it had ever gone before, and his head exploded. Louisa whipped her personal pistol out of its holster, flicking the safety off and pulling the trigger in one smooth motion, and her head exploded. Henry did perhaps the best thing he could under the circumstances. He leapt under the desk, hands on his head, making himself as small as possible, hoping that the devil would overlook him. And his head exploded. The cloaked figure that had invaded the space checked the screens for a moment before continuing on their way.
Oh my god, if this doesn't end with someone in the fucking main crew's head exploding, I will be disappointed.
Skipper smiled thinly to himself.
Hello?
Sorry, I glitched out again.
Oh, bloody hell, he's writing more!
I got the writing book, I simply had to add more. Skipper smiled thinly to himself as his eyes scanned the script, looking over the message he received from Elysian Fields. Satisfied, he glanced back up at Osmigius' automatic body, the mechanical lion glaring back at him. Red just confirmed receipt of the Hanged Man and the Array Knight, Skipper said. I have to give you credit, pal. You're an automatic of your words. Her artificial eyelids narrowed. Red, dangerous allies. With that, then, our business is concluded. My new ship's waiting for me. That it is, as well equipped as we could manage given the smaller size of the vessel. Your new slipstream came at great expense, but such was the extent of your blackmail. Slipstream, huh? To be perfectly honest, Skipper had forgotten what number ship they were on now. Maybe they should move on to weird letters instead. The Slipstream AE had a nice ring to it.
Okay, fucking Elon.
Well, thanks anyway. Skipper offered a thumbs up. I appreciate it. Don't be too sore, yeah? The voice of the metal lion was calm and mercilessly precise. You threatened our very way of life, Esmeralda. The existence of Paradisus. I'll be as sore as I like.
Wait, his name was Esmeralda?
His surname.
Oh, wait, what was his first name
Zachariah.
again? Zachariah Esmeralda?
Yeah.
Damn.
Skipper's smile dropped at the mention of his old name and he shrugged. It is what it is. Like you said, our business is done then. Thanks for the helping hand. He turned to leave Osmigius' personal quarters, the holographic banners lining the walls waving in an imaginary wind. Just as he reached the door, however, he heard a voice from behind him. His own voice. It was recording from when he'd eliminated the sponsor of war after the events on Talden. Specifically, it was a conversation he'd had with the old fart right before ending his life. Let me tell you, my bovine buddy, his old voice sighed. I want to change the shape of this world. That's my dream. When I'm done, and that's a when, not an if, yeah? There won't be room for people like you at the top anymore. If you make that dream come true with your help, I won't be changing the shape of this world, will I? I'll be throwing a fresh coat of paint over it. Not really what I'm looking for. Sorry. Is this how you intend to change the shape of this world, Skipper?
How did he receive that? Asmodeus?
Asmodeus asked quietly. From manipulation and blackmail, is that what you meant back then? Skipper faced away, his shoulders raised high, but his voice was dead and distant. That, he muttered, listening to the past. That stuff was just lip service, I guess. You can forget about it. How pitiful.
I think it's... I'm gonna be real. I think it's better without the I guess, because the I guess makes it like it's doubting himself, whereas the lip service like kind of feels like a steely resolve to like go with the dark path he's chosen.
Okay. How pitiful. With that, he walked out of the room. Asmodeus was tempted to call out after him in righteous anger, but somehow he couldn't quite bring himself to do it. After all, something about the man seemed so terribly sad.
Here, I'll fix a dragon for you for free.
So I feel like it's best if I popcorn this bit to you.
Sure. And look at me fixing all your
Thank you.
dragons. For my service. The doors to Dragon's quarters slid open, and Skipper strode in, hands on his hips. A wide grin was plastered on his face as usual, and it only widened as he ran his eyes over Dragon's packed case. "Everything ready?" he asked. "Man, you take your time, huh? Ruth and the twins are already waiting on the Slipstream AE." Dragon raised an eyebrow, rattling the suitcase to make sure it wouldn't just burst open and vomit his possessions all over the floor. "AE? We got to the end of the numbers, so I figured it was time to move on to weird letters." The door slid shut behind Skipper. Dragon scoffed, lifting his suitcase off the bed and slinging it over his back. Seemed structural integrity was fine. "I'm pretty sure we had plenty of numbers left. Like trillions. And what's a weird letter?" Skipper frowned. "A letter that's weird. You need more explanation?" "But AE is 2 letters. It's not a weird letter. It's just 2 normal ones. I don't get it." "You're a cogitant and you don't get it." "Yeah, I'm a cogitant and I don't get it. You should be concerned about your brave new concept." "Well, it's like AE, but you say them together. Hey, like that. You get it? Did I do it right?"
Yeah.
"Hey. Hey, Peter." Is that what it is?
No, that's not
Peter.
intentional.
Dragon blinked. "Sure, I get it." "You don't sound like you get it. It sounds like you're telling me what I want to hear, yeah? Come on, man. We gotta make sure we're on the same page here." "Weren't we in a hurry?" "Oh, right, yeah," Skipper said quickly, turning back towards the door. "Now that you mention it, we are kind of in a hurry. Let's walk and talk. I'll explain the weird letter system to you on the way." "Actually," Dragon swallowed, his voice serious, "there's something else I wanted to talk to you about. Something important." The smile dropped from Skipper's face and he nodded. "Sure," he said. "Like I said, walk and talk, yeah?" Skipper stepped over to the door and it slid open, but not at his command. Someone was already standing on the other side. Someone clad in a black cloak that slipped off their frame and pooled onto the floor. I think you should do a, like, what's the word I'm looking for? An M dash? Or like a dash instead of a comma there? Because it's so sudden. Just personal preference, hell yeah. A black cloak that slipped off their frame and pooled onto the floor. It revealed itself. I think that should be an opaque visit. An opaque visor sculpted into the vaguest human face. A black cape, the inside purple, whipping in a strange wind. "Oh no. No, no!" Oh wait, never mind, this isn't who I thought it was. A suit of dark armor making the body seem like a hole in space. Dragon Hadrian had never met this man, but he knew him by reputation. A chill ran down his spine. What was his voice again?
It was sort of like, sort of distorted. Like it's sort of like a Darth Vader sort of thing. With the mask.
"There you are!" How's
maybe
that?
Not, maybe not as, just like calm, but sort of like deeper, than like artificially deeper, if you get what I mean.
"There you are." How's that? Like through my hand.
Maybe just do it like this. Like more Kylo Ren.
"There you are," said Avaman, like fucking Saw. Said Avaman the announcer, the first contender of the supremacy. Was that his title?
Yeah.
I thought it was Avaman the Undaunted or something.
No, he's the announcer.
"Whirlwind Greatsword." Skipper did not hesitate. "Orbit landmine!" he screamed, throwing his hands out. The two attacks met, and the room exploded. Hey, why didn't he just explode his head?
Well, there's a reason.
I want to know this reason.
It
was like a bomb had gone off. Skipper fired off a shotgun from his back to keep himself fixed in place, but Dragon was not so fortunate. I think you accidentally...
Yeah, I'm trying to see if that's something on my screen then.
But Dragon was not so fortunate. He was thrown back by the impact of sound and wind colliding, his suitcase slamming into his face as it opened and dazing him. Clothes whipped through the room like debris sent flying by a tornado. Skipper slowly slid back across the floor as the wind buffeted against him, his glaring eyes fixed on the contender before him. "Gonna have to do better than that," he said through gritted teeth, the sustained landmine serving as a rudimentary shield against the gust. Even among the maelstrom, Avaman remained completely still, his expressionless mask staring right at Skipper. "Oh, I intend to." His voice was distorted by something inside the mask, but it was somehow still eerily familiar. "Whirlwind crossbow." He raised his hand into the shape of a finger gun, but it wasn't pointing at Skipper. No, it was pointing behind and to the left of him, right at Dragon! The The kid was slumped against the wall, clearly knocked unconscious by the first attack, completely helpless. He'd be blown to pieces just from the crossfire, never mind a direct hit. Bang! A bolt of wind burst out of Avaman's fingers, surfing across the room and right towards Dragon's head. Skipper had no choice. He cancelled his heartbeat landmine and pointed his finger towards Dragon as well, blasting the projectile out of the air with a heartbeat shotgun of his own. He'd known it was a mistake the moment he did it. The second bolt slammed into his stomach with the force of a car, forcing the air out of his lungs. He doubled over, blood spilling over his lips, his aether flaring defensively around him. Avaman had fired 2 projectiles at the same time, one at Dragon and another to circle around and strike Skipper when he moved to intercept. He went to take a breath to regain some strength, but the breath never came. He opened his mouth, but nothing happened. No rejuvenating oxygen entered his body. His vision began to waver. Air. The ability was clear enough. Avaman the announcer controlled air. He could fire it off as a projectile, slam it into things as a melee attack, or keep it out of the lungs of his enemies, so as to quickly drain them of strength. "Whirlwind Hangman," Avaman sneered. He still hadn't moved from his original position. "I thought you'd be better than this." His gloved hand lashed out and seized Skipper by the collar, pulling him close. His vision was wavering, his body rebelling against the lack of oxygen. That inhuman visage was only inches away. He would have given him a witty retort if he had the air to make one. Instead, all Skipper could manage was a little bit of spite. Aether coursing around his skull, he slammed forward and headbutted Avaman right in the mask. It cracked like glass, shards of it falling to the floor and through the gaps. Skipper could see shaggy black hair and right there, his mind ground to a halt. Through the broken mask, he could see his own face, decades younger, a face glaring down at him with utter, vile contempt. Wait, what? Did you... Wait, so he's not... So it shouldn't be distorted anymore, right?
Not distorted anymore, no.
Did you think you were the only one they brought back? His own voice spat. Everything went black. Is this like a clone of him?
Who can say?
Alternate universe where Skipper specialized in air?
They have similar abilities.
No. Kind of. Everything went white. Dragon groaned as he was jerked awake, his eyes struggling to adjust to the light as they fluttered open. "What?" he mumbled. "Huh?" He was shook again, and as he looked at the source of the motion, he saw Ruth, her hand gripping his shoulder. Her brow was knitted into utmost concern, and behind her he could see Bruno investigating the scene. "Dragon," she said seriously, looking into his eyes. "What happened?" The overstuffed door of memory was flung right open. Everything came back to him in a flood. Skipper, Avaman, the attack. He sat up, eyes wide, heart dropping. "They took him," he whispered. "They took him!" "What?" Ruth said, but the horror spreading over her face suggested she understood perfectly well. No time for panic, no time for terror. Dragon cast those things from his mind as far as he could throw them. "The only one that decides what happens to me is me. We need to get to the ship," he ordered. End of Arc 9. Wait, they didn't just kill Skipper? That seemed like a pretty fatal wound.
No.
How does Dragon know he's not dead?
Because he'd be here, dead.
Well, he could have taken the corpse as like proof.
Well, he could have.
Interesting. I semi-predicted this way back in the beginning. I was like, I bet at some point something will happen to Skipper. I assumed he would die, and like Dragon will have to take over as leader. So, put one up on the board for old Curdy boy. But, why don't you give us 2 fun facts now?
So I'll give you the first fun fact. There's a figure mentioned in this chapter called Grand Inspector Murphy, who we're going to meet with Xeroth.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Inspector Murphy is basically the Aetheral Space version of Benoit Blanc. So he's played by Daniel Craig in the movie adaptation, and he has...
Oh my god! from Knives Out?
He has the accent, and he's basically the leader of the Forgiveness Corps.
Aww.
So as such, he's sort of a big political figure in his own right. So like anyone who wants to be like Apex Bishop has to get in good with them.
Okay. And what's the other fact?
I'm trying to think of the other fact. Would you have a question for me?
Yeah. What happened? How did Avaman come to be? Why is he younger than Skipper?
Well, that's outside the thing of a fun fact.
Okay. Let me think for a second. You mentioned one of the guys, and this hasn't really been talked about a lot in Aetheral Space, but he had like a bunch of cybernetic implants. I think the only other character that's really been focused on with is Abraham. What is the logistics and cost of that? Like, is that super common or rare because of money?
Well, it
or is
depends
it like
on
an
the
invasive
extent of
procedure?
it. Things like Skipper's robotic arm, it was expensive, the one he's got. There's like different models, there's sort of a price scale there. But
Right.
the more you replace and enhance it, obviously becomes more and more expensive until we reach the level of the Hellhound, who is currently the person with the most cybernetic adjustments.
Yeah, because it felt very cyberpunkish, and I was wondering, is there a way to like enhance yourself enough that you could like rival Aether, or is Aether like always
You could. The
as like a lesser
body
option?
wise, can sort of rival most Aether users through his robotic body.
All right. Okay. So I guess that's it, and we will see you guys next time in Arc 10. What's the name of Arc 10?
Arc 10. It'll be a spoiler if I told you.
What was the name of Arc 9?
Final Church Arc.
Final Church Arc. All right. Well, I guess we'll see you guys next time in Arc 10. How long do you expect that arc to be?
Arc 10 is probably going to be fairly short.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll see you guys next time then. Bye.
Bye.
What if